Hey everyone, Navik here. This is my quick catch up on what's been going on in Hyde Street since last we left off. So, issue 3 of Hyde Street was basically their big Christmas issue. It follows a man called Samuel Carpus, a certain kind of thief who basically he spends his Christmas Eve stealing from families while dressed as Santa and getting a kick out of traumatizing little kids. It's which earns him the ire of Pranky. But aside from that, this issue also establishes is more of Mr. X and Pranky's relationship. They're both monsters, but quite honestly, Pranky is an evil little shit. And definitely more actively malicious than Mr. X. I mean, we'll see in a future issue that Mr. X has his own brand of sadism, but he's got nothing on Pranky. Because Mr. X actually wants to leave Hyde Street to see his daughter again. And yeah, they try to team up in order to stop Samuel, but yeah, Mr. X quickly realizes that Pranky does not care. He just outright tries to kill him. However, near the climax of this issue, when Pranky's about to kill Samuel or punish him, we get introduced to quite possibly my favorite character from Hyde Street, Oscar the Matinee Monster. Or he's this big Frankenstein thing, which, yeah, you can definitely see Ivan Reyes as drawing a bit from his experience drawing superheroes with his entrance pose in this 2-page spread. But he does something really interesting, because the whole thing about the residents of Hyde Street, they're meant to punish the wicked for their crimes, but Oscar does something really different. He instead seems to make Samuel realize what he did was wrong, make him regret his actions, kind of reignite the man's empathy for others, and he ends up teleporting away. Oscar ends up saving Samuel's soul, which earns him the ire of Pranky. And yeah, he's another problem for Mr. X. And as we see, the Matinee Monster has collected zero souls for the scorekeeper. So we continue that on into his origin in issue 4, which basically shows that his name, before he was the Matinee Monster, he was Oscar Oddman, and an actor in the late 1940s who basically was getting his big role in a new Frankenstein film. And he started killing the part, acting with his eyes and stuff, but he starts hearing rumors that the studio is kind of getting fed up with the troubled production. And when he's introduced to George Mitchell, who's supposed to be like his understudy, now let me just check. His understudy. And he ends up getting paranoid and thinking that he's going to be replaced. However, through a series of unfortunate events, he ends up accidentally killing Gregory Mitchell. And honestly, yes, which compared to a lot of the other residents of Hyde Street that we'll see, yeah, what Oscar did, it's still a sin, still kind of horrible, but at the very least, but he didn't do so maliciously. And yeah, he's told what to do by the scorekeeper. Because he was supposed to deliver that young girl's soul to him. And yeah, Pranky, the scorekeeper, might be the overall big malicious entity in charge of Hyde Street, but Pranky's obviously the main recurring antagonist. And yeah, Oscar refuses to damn souls so he can go free, showing that, yeah, he's basically the big paragon of this series, which the scorekeeper doesn't really like. So as punishment for Oscar refusing to get along with the program on Hyde Street, he rips out his eyes and his tongue, taking away the only ways he can actively communicate, though he still manages to show how good he is via body language. And yeah, I really do like the Matinee Monster's aesthetic because it really fits the whole Universal horror movie monster vibe. And we see that inside his castle, he's holding a prisoner called the Butcher of Hyde Street, who's only killed 9 people, but apparently he's so malicious that Oscar decided to imprison him. Issue 5 continues with a familiar face from the Devour one-shot, Miss Goodbody. And the art duties for this in the next issue are taken over by Francis Portela. And again, I do like that that when a new artist takes over the book, they actually have a distinct style. You won't confuse Francis Portella's art for Ivan Reyes's. Yes, and yeah, as we see in life, Miss Goodbody was like one of those exercise nuts in the 80s who pushed one of her clients too far to the fact that she died of a heart attack, calling her lard butt and all sorts of shit. She was part of the exercise craze in the 80s, and apparently she is so paranoid about leaving her shop that because she thinks that if she leaves, she'll age and turn to dust. Yes, and yeah, that's interspliced with her showing her life basically falling apart with causing her client's death. And yeah, she kind of regrets it, but when he actually has to face consequences for that, as she just lashes out calling her a pig and a lazy cow and all that. And it really this is kind of a scathing indictment of the early exercise culture from the 80s that, yeah, as the issue points out, it kind of continues this horrible trend of pushing people onto try to past the point of self-improvement to almost to the point of starvation. Hell, we even see why Miss Goodbody is like this, because her own mother kind of made her, that kind of called her the same stuff she calls fat people. And yeah, she ended up on Hyde Street, thanks to the appearance of Sisterhood, who actually has her own miniseries. And yeah, basically, that gives us Miss Goodbody's origin. And yeah, now, but unfortunately, Pranky decides to come in and ruin everything with her latest mark. Issue 6, while taking on a bit of continuation, and from that arc continuing the ongoing story of Pranky trying to hunt down on Oscar, we actually get to see how Mr. X punishes people whenever they come to Hyde Street. In this case, it's a tour bus of people who end up running over an innocent girl, and kind of don't want to acknowledge what they did bad. And so yeah, they're all a bunch of horrible people who basically murder a woman in their tour group so that they can get away scot-free with it. But yeah, they end up getting punished, and as for punishment, they're going to be continuously run over by Mr. X X with the bus. So yeah, and yeah, the issue also ends again reinforcing Miss Goodbody's fear of leaving her shop. And issue 7, and Ivan Reyes is back on art duty, and it basically is the Pranky's hunt for Oscar. Oscar trying to get all the stuff together, his monster hunting manual, a bunch of murderous stuff, and even stealing a mask. That's what Oscar actually had once. Though, Pranky is constantly interrupted by this guy who came from Hyde Street, and it also leads to a fight with him and Oscar, and yeah, Pranky summons a bunch of other monsters and stuff, based on old horror serial mascots, and even puts on the werewolf mask. However, Oscar is able to. Oscar, after learning that this man is, well, kind of a fucking and horrible creep, Oscar basically leaves Pranky to kill him, and he'll continue to hunt for Oscar later. Though, as the narration points out, Pranky's finally going to start to get his comeuppance, because apparently no one told him that once you put on the mask, they can't be taken off. So it is kind of like the mask from that famous Goosebumps story. So yeah, that's Hyde Street. It continues to be a fun, unhorrific time. I really enjoyed it. Alright, so yeah, we'll be continuing on covering the next issue. Until then, have a great day.